How's it guys, I'm Clarice, you're on the Live Ready channel and I'm sharing my best knots for setting up a campsite. Everything from joining two lines to hanging up your gear. So everybody's got their favorite knots, and I think all of us over time have learned little shortcuts in order to do them quickly. And there are hundreds of thousands of knots out there and plenty of ways that you can tie lines to trees or to one another or to hang up your gear. So forgive me if I don't go through your favorite knots in this video. And if I do add a couple of extra kinks to some or the other knot, then they are just Clarice's extras. We'll put it that way. Just because that's the way that I've been doing it in order to do it fast or make it secure, and I'll try and touch on all of those little tricks of mine too. So let's say that you found yourself a really nice campsite, you're wild camping, you didn't really know where you were going to camp, but you had sort of an idea, and when you got there you noticed that the trees that you wanted to put your line up on were much further apart than what you expected. So you're now left having to join two ends of a line, if you're lucky enough to keep a second rope with you, in order to make a ridge line that is long enough for you to set up your tarp. So the way that I like to join two lines is with the Triple Fisherman's knot, and it's actually such a simple way to do it. So climbers, I believe, like to use a Triple Fisherman's knot to make hoops or to join lines together because it's quite good at absorbing stress or absorbing shock. I'm not a climber myself, so I'm not speaking from experience, but this is the way that I like to do it. So let's say I want to join these two lines together. So ideally I want them to overlap because that's going to give me the strongest connection or the strongest join. So what I want to do is I want to fold one over on itself, sort of like I'm going to do if I were splicing in the reverse wrap cordage method. And it doesn't have to be this exact same length as this one, as long as I've left myself a nice long piece to work with. So I can even go ahead and make that a bit longer. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to wrap it around itself 1, 2, and 3 times to make 3 hoops over there. And you can see that I've put my thumb in there, and the reason why is I want to leave a nice space for myself to put the tail end through, and then I just pull tight on it. Okay, so now my lines are joined, but they're not quite strong enough. You'll agree with me that this one can slip out now. I'm going to pull it through and give myself once again a nice long tail. You can see I fold it over on itself and then go around once, twice, 3 times, and then when I come around again I'm simply going to tuck its tail in and then pull it taut on itself. So now I've got 2 knots like that, and if I pull on them, you'll see they simply come together, and I can dress them a little bit and tighten them a little bit, and now those aren't going to leave one another. So to make life simple for myself, I'm going to use a running bowline on the one side of my ridge line. To create a running bowline, I first need to do an end of the line bowline. The running part is sort of the easy and quick piece. Usually if I do a running bowline, I'll make it quite small, but because I know that this is going to have to fit through my running bowline, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for this time. What you see most often is that people will take the short end or the standing end of their rope, whatever you feel like calling it. They'll make a loop in their line, then they'll take their free end, push it through the loop, around the working end and back through along itself where it came through to give you that loop over there. And then if you pull taut, you get a bowline. So this is your end of the line bowline. What I find a faster method is, instead of putting my standing end over my working end, I do it the opposite way around, then pull a bight through that loop. So it looks something like that. And then I'll take my little tail, tuck it in, and grab both ends of that tail. And now once I pull here, I've once again got an end of the line bowline. The reason why I do like adding a safety knot in here, not so much for the fact that I'm concerned it's going to come loose, but because I like those two lines to run parallel to one another. Now, to create a running bowline, all I need to do is take my end of the line bowline, pass it around a tree, and pass the tail through the loop. Now I've got a lot of tail to pull through the loop here. And the reason why I made a big bowline is so that my join can come through too. There we go. Now I can go ahead and go tension that a bit. Passing my line through here. Now this isn't really a knot, but it does make my ridge line nice and tight. And I'm just passing it around the tree and through itself. There we go. Okay, and that sits there quite nicely. And the best thing that you can do when tying knots or tying ropes to things is to find a way for the rope to bite on itself. So the minute you tension it, it actually holds down on itself. And the minute you give it a little bit of leeway there, it comes loose easier. Now it's at this point here that we get to my favorite knot. And for this knot, I'm going to need a toggle. And if you haven't seen my video on making toggles yet, go and check that one out. I've got some really cool ones. This one's even got a hole in it. And I really like to use these because they make it easy to undo your knots again at a later stage. So this knot is called an Evenk hitch. And a hitch is a knot that you secure on the one end that isn't movable. So a good idea is to keep your line sort of manageable. Don't let it all fray and lie around everywhere so that you can pass it around easily. So to make an Evenk hitch, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my line around the tree again, kind of judging the height at which I want it. Give it a nice tug. And you can see how important this little join is here, because my line would have been just too short to get around the tree. I'm going to put it around my fingers and just like half a loop, and I twist it up to give me a double loop over there. Let me do that again. Around my fingers, twist it up over there. Then I just pass the standing end through my fingers, I clamp it over there, and I pull it right through. And that is an Evenk hitch. Now, if I pull this tail over here, it's going to come right loose again. So what I do instead of leaving it that way, and you can actually pull your tail right through, but just to make it easy to undo the knot, I put a toggle in there, and you'll remember from my toggles video that I did this too, and that will keep the line there. Now I've got my ridge line up, but let's say for example I'm expecting a bit of weather and I've brought a camping hammock or something of the sort and I wanted to lift my gear off the ground. I can actually hang my gear up using a Marling spike hitch. To start a Marling spike hitch, I once again need to put a end of the line bowline in my rope. So I've got a short piece here that I'm going to use. It only needs to really be long enough to pass around the tree and give you an extension of about 30 centimeters. Now once again, I take my end of the line bowline and make a running bowline, just like that. And you can just tighten it a little bit. I like to make them neat, even though I've got so many knots going on here. And now to make a Marling spike hitch, what you want to do is you want to make a little hoop, turn it up on itself. So over there I've got my loop, and then take that loop and turn it up on itself again. And now I've got a knot at the bottom, which is where we want it because otherwise it can fall right through, and the top is relatively clean. Now to put my Marling spike in there, and a Marling spike is actually a sailor's spike, and they used to use it on ships, and it's often called a Marlin spike, but it doesn't really matter what you call it. And then I've got my toggle in there, I've pulled it nice and tight here, and now I can hang my gear from my toggle. There we go. Now that my line is up and my gear is up, I can go ahead and set up camp. So what I've done on this side here to hang up this tarp is also an Evenk Hitch, and I've done a little Dutch braid just to neaten up my line over there. I've also got a toggle in here because I've run out of nice ones. I've just broken a stick. To give you a quick idea of how this works, just pull that out. See, easy campsite setup. Pull my toggle out and that comes loose. This time, instead of just doing a normal Evenk Hitch like that, and over to set up my tarp, I've gone and added 2 loops to it just to make sure that it doesn't run on my line. So here's what I did. Oh, the wind's not helping. I run it over twice through itself. And what running it through itself here does is it just makes sure that it clinches on itself there. Now I can do my Evenk Hitch again. Where did I throw my stick? And this is also a toggle, even though it's not pretty. Run my toggle through there. And now what I can do, because I've passed it over itself here, it's going to clinch on itself. And all I need to do now is pull it taut. And it will stay. Well, that's it, guys. Easy campsite setup. Remember to hit like and subscribe. Comment what your favorite knots are below. And until the next time, live ready.